What's good, everyone? Al Trataros here with another Knicks episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. And what means always my buddy, my coach, my pal, the man with the plan, the one and only, John Meleka. John, I don't know about you, bro, but I need this weekend break. I needed this weekend break because after last week's performance from the New York Knicks, I legit don't know if I've been able to live. I tweeted out on Saturday or Sunday, I forget what day it was. I was like, thank goodness the Knicks haven't played because it's been good for my blood pressure. I've been going crazy. That Charlotte game on Friday, I was going nuts, dude. When it came down to the wire, just going insane. But thank God they had 2 days off. Unless you're a Jets fan, then I don't know. Sunday wasn't too great either.
I feel the complete opposite, honestly. I'm the type of guy who I want the next game. Like I need to recover from that last Knicks game, and the last thing I needed was a Jets game in between. Okay, of this Knicks drought. So honestly, I'm on a total opposite rig. I'm so happy the Knicks are back. We have a nice little mini homestand, and they're against some familiar foes, right? Like the Pacers, the Magic again, and then the crumb. Can I say like the crummy Rockets? Like we'll get there when we get there, but we should be able to handle these three teams. We have a lot to prove, and as I was telling you off air, and as we've been talking, dude, I feel like this team has cement attached to their feet. Just especially during the third quarter, but just like as soon as they start this game, I just feel like we're gonna lose. We just have those types of vibes. So I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm ready for this week. I'm ready for the homestand.
All right. So let's get into this then, and let's bring our good guest that we got with us today. All right, we got a guest from Pick a Side podcast. His name is Joel Moran. He's one of the co-hosts of Pick a Side podcast. Fun stuff over there. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure to go check out that YouTube channel. Make sure to follow them on TikTok. They have really engaging content. They get into really good debates. I just get sucked in. The one that I do have a gripe, though, is with the Derrick Rose slander. I will not take Derrick Rose in the teams, all right? I saw that one. Don't think you're going to get out of here alive without that one. But, Joel, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great. I was surprised you weren't going to mention the Klay Thompson one, because Draymond had a gripe with that one. Yeah, he commented on it. He was like, "Get these clowns out of here. It's all good." But I'm doing great. This is the third time we try to set this up, but now I'm in the fancy setup. I'm in my brother's dungeon in his gaming room, so I think it's gonna work out just great.
All right. And for everyone, just to get a little background, it's not that we tried many weeks to schedule this podcast to get it going. Legit in this day, within the last 20 minutes, we tried not one, not two, not three. We tried like 4 or 5 times to get this thing going. We went on the 5 count, like LeBron James going down to the Miami Heat, saying how many rings they were supposed to win, which they didn't. But we're not going to go there today. Anyway, Joel, we got you on here because you're also a Knicks fan like us. You're also a Jets fan like us, but we're not going to talk about that team because for the heart and soul, we got to save that for. We got to recover. So
no Jets talk today.
No, we're gonna get there at the end.
We can do a little bit, but we're not going to go too deep. I can't go too deep again. That's what that's saving for another day. But we're going to talk about the New York Knicks, man. And right now, the New York Knicks they're 7-6, came out of the gate hot. Last week, as I already mentioned to John, and you were listening, we've been going through a little bit of a struggle this past week. So let's get into it. Knicks going to a little struggle. We won against Philadelphia. We thought we can get another game against the Bucks. That didn't happen. Hornets didn't happen. Now they had 2 days off. Now they're playing the Indiana Pacers as we speak. But Joel, what did you see from the past week, man? What did you see from the Knicks so far?
I just saw a lot of inconsistency. I feel like the Knicks, there are certain quarters where they just don't bring any energy at all. We've been seeing the past week that the bench has been outplaying the starters drastically. Our starting 5 of RJ, Kemba, Fournier, Randle, Mitch, they're the worst starting 5 in terms of plus minus in the league right now. We're not playing defense. At least the starters aren't playing defense. And it starts with Thibodeau. It starts with Randle. And then it trickles down to everybody else. And I know that Julius Randle gets all the blame, and deservedly so. He's an all-NBA player, even though I felt like all-NBA second team, did we actually think Randle was that type of player? I'm not sure. That's a debate for another day. But I think the Kemba Walker signing is kind of biting us in the butt right now. Kemba Walker doesn't look like himself. And those 20 points per game he averaged in Boston fooled me. I'll say I was fooled by Kemba. I thought he was going to be much better, but he's not aggressive right now. And I hope that he just figures it out. And then RJ, he's been averaging 8 points in the last 4 games. I mean, it's about time. I know, like, his rookie season, his second season, we gave RJ a pass every single time he went through a funk because he was young and he's still young. But this is his third season. We're seeing his peers outperform him. We're seeing Darius Garland bring it every single night for Cleveland. We're seeing Miles Bridges, who just has 1 year more of experience on RJ, become an all-star caliber player and consistent on every single night. We saw a great stretch from RJ, but he needs to continue that. And I worry about his inconsistencies sometimes because sometimes he just disappears from the game.
All right, coming out of the gates hot and heavy. John, what do you think? Do you have anything to rebut? What do you want to do before we really get into this? Before I start giving my thoughts.
Well, I don't know where I should start because I mean we could start with Kemba, right? I mean that's the hot topic right now.
Sure.
You know, I don't think anyone was fooled from what he did in Boston, which is why he was, bought out and signed for $6 million for 2 years. Right. So I don't think that he was coming in here to be our, number one starter going forward. I'm actually surprised that he's been active, as many games that he's been active and kind of starting and ready to play the minutes that he's ready to play. I'm not too shocked that he can't play defense. Right. That we all knew that going into it. I'm not shocked that Derrick Rose can't play defense. Like, we don't have a point guard that can play D. I'm actually, pleasantly surprised and not shocked at all by IQ kind of bringing it. But we'll get into that later. But just as for Kemba, I mean, the last couple of games he's been trying to bring it in the first quarter after obviously he sucked. Like, by his own words, he sucked. Right. Let's not mince words for the first couple of games. And he's starting to bring it. The other day, he had 20 points in the first, but he's not going to hold that up to the whole game. So if Kemba Walker could have a burst or two per game and act as a quote unquote bench player, even though he's starting, not Alfred Payton minutes like 12, but more like 20. You know what I mean? And just like fill in that kind of role, that'd be fantastic. But I don't think the issue is Kemba. Like, I think it's easy to just like blame him because we just never had a point guard. So we'll just like look at the point guard and be like, listen, you're not doing it, and you're still not filling those shoes. I don't think it's really fair for you to compare RJ to Miles Bridges. Like, are you really on the Miles Bridges train? Like, he literally he had a couple weeks. like let's take it easy. Like, I know I like him. I'm with you, but let's just take it easy on that. And I'm not happy with RJ too. I'm not giving him the pass necessarily, but I just think the Knicks issues go way deeper. What do you guys think?
So to get into it, I'm on the side where I'm not looking at Kemba that much because I look at Kemba's contract and I look at where Kemba's coming from. Right, we know he had arthritis in the this is kind of like what we got with Derrick Rose the first time around, right? With that trade, you're like, oh, okay, we got Derrick Rose for 1 year, cheap contract. If he works out, he works out. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Now, in this situation, we're not going to get an AWOL from Kemba, as we did from Derrick Rose that season. Derrick Rose was just mentally not in it that season. Kemba, I'm looking at him to be, if I'm blaming Kemba, it's because I wish he was more aggressive those games, being a point guard and actually distributing the ball and facilitating the offense. Because as we got from Stephen Bondy today from the Daily News, we saw that Thibodeau was letting these guys freelance, which usually if you have good players, if you have top caliber players, you can allow them to freelance.
Listen, can I just say something about that?
What?
This whole Thibodeau is making them freelance, bro. I've been telling you from day one, he does not have an offense. He's just like, yo, you figure it out. He's been doing this from day one. He's been a coach. He's like, yo, I coach defense, offense, you figure it out. That's what he does, man. That's what he does.
As of right now, they got some good sets, and it's not necessarily him, right? It's also Johnny Bryant. There's a whole coaching staff, so other guys can draw it up, and that's who he's probably leaning on for them to draw up the plays. And so as of right now, the offense looks a little bit more crisp because they actually are getting into sets and doing something that no one's just trying to figure out on their own and allowing Julius Randle to be this point forward. But for Kemba, I just want Kemba to be aggressive. So that's where I'll agree with Joel. It's like, I want Kemba to be aggressive. I don't think he was the worst sign. I think for getting a point guard for $8 million a year to play 20 minutes and just hoping that we can get something for him, I think that's fine. If you're going to ask me who I'm going to look at more so, it's probably Evan Fournier, who gets paid a lot more, and we need him to not just be a little.
That's who fooled us.
That's the guy who needs to come out, in my opinion, start putting up some shots, because he's supposed to be our other shooter. He's playing a premier position. He's playing the wing. He's got to guard guys. I knew this coming in. He's a team defender. He's not an on-ball defender. And he's not even doing team ball well. All right. He's not shooting his shots. He's being timid. A lot of pump fakes and passing. Shoot the damn thing. Let it fly. Got to do that. And getting to RJ, I agree with you, Joel. I'm agree with both of you. Like, I'm not gonna compare Miles Bridges. It's still early in the season for me to start saying, oh, what about this guy? What about that guy? But RJ, he's in his third season. He needs to get more consistent. But I'm gonna go back to saying that if they're allowing these guys to freelance, and most of these guys are not freelance ball players, we're gonna see a lot of these guys just struggle, because that's just not who they are. Like, these guys come from very strict, rigid systems, whether it's Kentucky, Duke. These guys have plays. These guys have coaching that's saying, this is what you do it. This is not LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, like, you guys got it, right? Go figure it out. It's a joke with Fizdale, but we're not going to go down that road.
That's a good point.
And then what was it? Randle? I think he was deserving of that second second All NBA. I think he played his heart out to go get it. He
just regressed a little bit. I think you're right, Joel. He regressed a little bit to the somewhere between where we wanted to cut him and trade him for nobody, and then
Buddy Hield, baby, Buddy Hield. We wanted Buddy Hield, right?
But somewhere between that and all of a sudden he's the best player in the league. Yeah. Like somewhere in the middle.
But, you made an excellent point about Tom Thibodeau and the teams that he's had. He doesn't have an offensive system. When he was in Chicago, Derrick Rose was that go-to scorer. When he was in Minnesota, Jimmy Butler, Cat, and even Wiggins to an extent, they were those go-to scorers. I don't think outside of Julius Randle, we really have that. Like, we hope that RJ can be that, but he just has to be more consistent. He had 2 points in like 28 minutes. I mean, like, come on. Like, come on. Even his big games where he does well, he had like 4 points in the first half. Yeah.
And then he ended with 26. Looked, he picked it up, but still, dude, you can't just be walking out there with 2 points, like you said.
Yeah, like the thing with RJ is that one game he'll go 8 for 13, have like 22 points. Then the next game he'll go 2 for 9 and be really inefficient. And look, I know the Knicks, we are the best fans and we have the most passionate fan base. And because of our emotions, because of our passion, we kind of say a lot of outlandish things sometimes. Julius Randle, no doubt about it, deserved all NBA second team. Last year, when he was on the hot streak, it was just after he dropped 30 on Atlanta in the regular season. I'm watching the game with my cousin, and we're just talking about players. And I just asked him because he was a huge Julius guy. He was like, yo, I think Julius can be the best player on a championship team or the second best. And I'm looking at him like, I'm like, do you think he's better than Trae Young? He looked at me with a straight face and said, I do. And then we got to the playoffs and we saw what Trae Young did, a primetime performer in Trae Young, what he did. And Julius Randle, you're right. You made an excellent point. He's not what he was in the 1920 season when we wanted him off the team, but he's not what he was so far yet last season. He's not hitting his mid-range shots with consistency. He's dropped down in three-point percentage, and he's frankly turning the ball over way too much. And on defense, he's not showing much effort. I saw a chart that in terms of our like effort stats, Julius Randle barely boxes out. I mean, he hasn't been the same player that he was last season.
Yeah, no, for sure. He hasn't been that same player that he was from last season. That's kind of where I'm at too. And like after watching the Hornets game, and he's at the forefront as he should be because he's I don't know if he's actually been designated the captain, but he is the leader of this team. He's the money man. He's $100 million man. He carried us through last season. He's going to be the face of this team until someone else usurps him and becomes better. But when you're at the podium and you say, we got to come out with more energy, and especially when it's a third quarter, John's favorite quarter, third quarter, you gotta show it, man. You gotta put your money where your mouth is. You gotta actually do it. I'm getting tired of that. I'm legit getting tired of just mouth service saying, all right, we gotta play with energy. All right, come out in the first quarter playing with energy, and he was doing good. He wasn't scoring, he was facilitating. Then the third quarter comes around, everyone just looks tired, man. It's look, everyone got itis. You know, they just went in there, had a big meal, coming out on the court, just ready to just take a nap. And I'm tired of that. I'm legitimately tired of that. If they're gonna say you got to play with effort, come out and play with effort. That's what this team is built on. That is what the New York Knicks history is built on: being tough, being gritty, going on 120%, 48 minutes, night in and night out. Is none of this half-ass shit that we've been getting. And I'm like, if anything has got to be held accountable, he's got to be held accountable because he's the leader. If he's not boxing out, if he's not running back on court because he's been doing the trotting back, it's not real, man. It's like, you got to be better.
Okay. I agree with, definitely there's an effort all around on the Knicks. Like, so I'm not going to pinpoint that on Julius, but let's dissect like what you said about Julius Randle, because as we know, and as we agree, we live and die by Julius Randle. That's it. Where he takes us, that's where the Knicks are going to go. So let's talk about, the box out and what's behind him, right? The only purpose of the number of the 5 is whether it's Mitchell Robinson, whether it's Noel, Sims, Taj Gibson, any of them. They don't do anything except for get rebounds and play defense. So if they're not doing that, and now we're just gonna blame it on Julius and say, look at your stats, man. Like, you're not. He's like, yeah, like that's not my job. Like, you know what I'm trying to say. I know everything's a team effort, but everyone has a role. And so Mitch has his moments, and I'll say this: Mitch has his games. He's had some good games, and Taj Gibson has had some moments. But other than that, our number 5 has been terrible. And on the other side of things, where I think where Randle is reverting a little bit more back to 1920, and we're getting a little bit of those flashbacks, we're asking him to be the hero. So when we're stagnant and we can't get anything going because there's nothing going on the offense, RJ's 2 for 9, like you said, our point guard's not doing anything. Our center doesn't do anything on offense. Like, that's it. Now it's just Randle. Now we just pass it to Randle. Like, yo, figure it out, man. And if he's not hitting it, now we're pissed off. Every miss is now a turnover. So I think we're a little bit not fair. And we can see Thibodeau trying to figure it out. So I want to get to, like, we were talking about this last week, Alex, and it was so funny. We talked about it and it seemed so far-fetched. And then we literally saw it play out. And it's, what are we going to do with Obi, man? Like, are we going to try to put Obi in at the 5? Are we going to put him in at the 3? Are we going to put him at the 4 and move Julius to the 5? And I'm wondering if this whole mix-up has everything to do with why, the chemistry is not really there, right? Every time we lose, it's, why isn't Obi in there? He was doing fine. You know what I'm saying? There's always like a weird thing going on, a weird dynamic. So the chemistry is not really there on and off the court, maybe, in these terms. So I'm wondering what you guys think about that.
I think that we're still trying to figure out our roles. Like you mentioned, Mitchell Robinson, Noel, Gibson, their job is to play defense and grab rebounds. That's what their job is. When talking about the offense side of the ball, I know offense isn't our problem. It's defensively. But when you look at the offensive side of the ball, who's our number 2 guy? Who's our number 2 guy? It's really just Julius. And then, okay, if it's Fournier one night, it's him. If it's Kemba, it's him. If it's RJ, it's him. We were all hoping that RJ was going to take this 3rd-year leap and he was going to solidify himself as the guy. Like, okay, I'm the second option and we're going to play through Julius and me. But we're starting to notice that RJ isn't much of an offensive creator. And the reason why we got Fournier and Kemba was because last year RJ was horrible in pick and roll situations. He shows flashes of passing, but it's just not consistent. So we don't have a solidified number 2 guy. And most of our team, our starting lineup, is built off of rhythm players. They have to get into a rhythm offensively for them to show up on other parts of the game. When Julius is not touching the ball on offense, now it translates to the defensive side of the ball. RJ had a great start defensively to the season, but we've seen he's a good defender, but is he this all NBA elite Lugens Dort type of defender where he's going to lock players up? He's not that. RJ is just a solid defender. And Fournier, if he's not scoring, if he's not involved in the offense, if he's not spacing the floor, he brings nothing on defense. And Kemba, we know he's a cone on defense. So at this point, it's like when they're not getting going offensively, defensively, the effort isn't there either. And we're counting on Mitchell Robinson to kind of pick up the scraps. And there are very few centers that are capable of making up for the other four players' mistakes on the defensive side of the ball. And the only two centers I could think of defensively that do that are Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo. Outside of those two guys, I can't think of another center that is capable of doing that.
What do you think about Clint Capella? I'm just curious.
Clint Capella has been bad this year.
Yeah,
he's been bad.
Well, listen. You can't bring up that.
I like him a lot.
I let you go on one thing. Trae Young's also been bad.
Yeah,
I let that slide. But like the Hawks have been terrible. Like everyone's ragging on the Knicks. I mean, if we're able to put this homestand together, I think our whole entire outlook is going to look crazy. I think us criticizing RJ for having a bad week in November is going to look crazy. I think that, all of a sudden not trusting Randle and thinking that he's bad all of a sudden after we sort of confessed and repented for our sins, right? For what we did. We're like, we're so sorry. Unblock us, this, that. We're like, you're the best. Here's a contract. We're so sorry. And now all of a sudden after 1 or 2 weeks, we're like, yo, Randle, we're done with you. You suck. Figure it out. Like I'm just, I don't know. I just have this feeling that we're just gonna put it all together. But my question is, guys, is where does Obi fit on this team?
So let's get into it then, right? Because we're gonna talk. We it's been alluded to that even in today's article by Stephen Body, once again, there will be rotational changes, right? And I think when we think of rotational changes, number one person, one of the top people we're thinking about is Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, and Obi Toppin, right? And I think Obi Toppin is at number one at the list because we've seen him in his spurts, whether it's 10, 11, 15 minutes. He comes in, brings a lot of energy. He's ready to defend his ass off. He's ready to run up and down the court, whether the ball's in his hand or not, just leaking out, looking to get slam dunks. Well, that windmill dunk had me wild against Charlotte on Friday. I jumped out of my seat. I was like, yo, that's what we need. That's the energy. And then he gets pulled down. And you're like, what the hell? And that's the reason, is because what the hell is usually Randle coming in because he's supposed to be the guy that takes us all the way to the finish line and closes. But the way Obi's been playing, you need to find this guy more minutes. I don't know if it's a true rotational change as into a starting lineup, but we have to figure out minutes. And this is where I say you got to figure out minutes. It's hard because Thibodeau, once again, keeps saying that he's not going to take out his centers because he wants the rim protection. Although I wish he would do it for a spurt and get these guys just overlapping on a court, because I think when you get Obi on the court, there's just that dynamic nature that we just lack, whether it's just pushing the ball out on court. And when you have a 6'9" dude who can just bring up the ball and you're like, whoa, what is this? And it just changes everything.
Is Randle going to be like Draymond? Is like Joel's boy Draymond? Is he going to play that 5 role? That because that almost has nothing to do with Obi. We know that Obi is good at the 4. So everything you're saying is perfectly fine. But then it goes to, can Randle be the 5? Now we're putting him out of position. Like we just saw him.
But we're not though, because we've seen this in the past, especially when he was on the Pelicans and even parts of on the Lakers. He can play the 5, especially when it comes to small ball 5. This wouldn't be anything new for him. He's been able to play in the block and has done well before. He's been close to a double-double machine on those two teams, especially when he was in New Orleans before he came to New York, playing at that 5. So he can do it, right? And I think he can, especially when you look at other opposing centers for that just come in that sub other guys out. They're usually on the smaller size. They're not 6'10" guys usually. And I think with his strength and his athleticism, you put having those two guys who I haven't seen it this season yet, but Randle can fly up the court too. We saw that last season too. If you have two big guys in Obi and Randle flying up the court with the ball, both of them who can bring up the ball too, in my mind, how do you just stop that for a few minutes just to get some offense going And then you can just take one of those guys out and say, all right, back to our scheduled programming. Let's get some rim protection.
I mean, I think that playing Obi, Randle at the 5-4, that's interchangeable. And I think it makes a lot of sense. We saw it earlier in the season and we saw it have a lot of success. And yeah, we're going to get abused by opposing centers if they have them in the game. But in the Eastern Conference, I don't really see a lot of dominant centers on a night-to-night basis that we're going to have to face. Like, for example, the Hornets. Are we worried about Mason Plumlee? Like, we're not worried about Mason Plumlee. Like, we're worried about other guys like
Worried about him
Bam
getting boards.
Yeah, but we're not worried about the centers that the East has to offer. And even in today's NBA, there's not a bunch of great centers across the league that there were, at one point. So I would just go with a small ball lineup. But I really do think that it's our perimeter defense that is most of the problem. And I feel like maybe we give Kemba a few more games. I say like we give him like 5-6 more games and then try to start IQ instead of Kemba so we can have that defense. Because Kemba Walker, as much as he has a great reputation, what he is now is just not what the Knicks need. And I hate to bring this up because it hurts my heart to talk about it. Chicago, the free agency they had, getting Lonzo and DeMar. Lonzo, we knew was kind of a perfect fit for us in terms of defensively what Thibodeau wants. And right now, Lonzo's having a first team all defense type of season to start it off. He's going to make one of the defensive teams. And the entire fan base ragged on DeMar DeRozan and not really wanting him. And now we see him having an MVP caliber season. Before he got to San Antonio, he was averaging close to 26, 27 points per game. And he showed that playmaking prowess. And then in San Antonio, he improved a lot as a playmaker. Just thinking about having Lonzo and DeMar on this team, the scoring DeMar adds and the defensive versatility Lonzo adds, it would have fixed a lot of problems for us and we would have gotten way better. But instead, we kind of settled for Kemba Walker, and it was a homecoming. We bought into the narrative as fans. And Fournier, I don't think Fournier is much of a problem. He is what he is. He can handle the ball somewhat. He can shoot the ball. He can space the floor. He was brought in there to just shoot. We weren't expecting much out of him. I really think it's that point guard position that's kind of holding us back right now. And if IQ is better than Kemba right now, then start IQ.
See, my thing. So to touch on, don't get me started on Lonzo Ball. I got dragged through the mud for thinking that Lonzo was a point guard. But the thing I have with DeRozan is that yes, he improved in his playmaking. Yes, he's a scorer. My thing with DeRozan was he's going to fit on this team with the Knicks with two guys in Julius Randle and RJ Barrett who love to live inside the paint. He's shooting right now well from three. We'll see if that can last. That's always my concern is do you have a guy who can spread the floor for those two guys? DeMar, I think he's in the perfect situation out in Chicago. We're talking about an entire five that can shoot from behind the arc. We don't have that here in New York. We have, if Randle is not going to be that 40% shooter, if RJ is not going to be that 40% shooter, we're talking then about maybe an average three-point shooting team. And that doesn't cut it. We're talking about Lonzo is having a career right now, shooting over 40%. Zach LaVine's shooting over 40% right now, too, from three. And that's the other thing, too.
Guys.
Huh? Yeah, we don't have those guys.
Yeah.
We do not have those guys. And then if you're talking about DeRozan, he has it even easier because Zach LaVine is just a bucket. 2 years ago, top 11 in scoring. And then he took it up another notch last season. We don't have those guys. So that was always the one thing with DeRozan is that he's on a really good team that helps him really shine. And I said, I liked him going to the Bulls. Lonzo Ball, we want to talk about that. It's too early for me to start doing victory laps. I like Lonzo. I think he would have been a perfect guy for this team. And if there's a contract, if there's a contract to flip, it'd be Fournier and Lonzo because they're making the same amount. But that for me, it's like it's not really Kemba. Like I look at the contract, I look at the value. That's really how I gauge the player. It's like, what's the contract? What's the value? What are we expecting out of him? We just need him to be 75%, and it's still early. He could still turn it around, but I don't know. It's for me. It's when I look at Fournier, who's getting paid. It's not. Yeah, he can do a little. Could do this and that. If you're getting paid $75 million contract, I'm expecting 15 points from you at minimum on a nightly basis.
Yeah. I mean, you're going through a lot of things here, right? Like the Bulls having a good offseason has nothing to do with the Knicks. Like there's tampering charges that the NBA is going through for Lonzo Ball and the Bulls. Like there's no chance there. So like we're going in circles, but that like goes into like the whole typical like Knicks fan BS, and where I could agree with people that like hate on the Knicks fan base. Like the fix was in for Lonzo to the Knicks. It's over, right? And why DeRozan chose the Bulls over the Knicks? Should the Knicks have gotten him? He would have clashed with RJ. Like we like RJ would not have any room to develop if DeRozan is there. He'd be stealing all like we could kind of move Fournier away. We wouldn't be able to move DeRozan. You know what I mean? And say, all right, we're gonna make room for RJ. Now we kind of can. But I think it's like you kind of mentioned it at the end there, where it has to do with the Knicks and how he could kind of become the Bulls, right? Because if we're saying that DeRozan is RJ and like we need that chance, maybe all we need is that Lonzo. And I think you had it right. Like it's IQ. Like maybe the lineup change is putting IQ there. And if you give IQ a chance to run the pace, to run the offense, to actually play D and not think that he's going to get out of the game in 8 minutes, you know what I mean? Or like he has to chuck up a shot here because he's about to he's about to sit down like any of us would do, or any, self-respecting NBA player does when when he looks up at the time. So like, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that IQ taking, like, forget Kemba, like forget D Rose, like what do you think about IQ, like our guy, our rookie, taking the reins there? And then at the end of the day, you'll have IQ, RJ, Obi, and Randle, on the floor, at one point. If that's the starting lineup and we're moving things around, like how do you guys think, the Knicks would do with that?
I mean, I love IQ, and we know that IQ and Obi, they have a great relationship. So whenever they're on the court together, they mesh perfectly. I think he's a much better defender than Kemba. There's no doubt about that. And he's a much consistent shooter. I know this year he's been on and off, but we know IQ can shoot. I mean, that's not even a question mark. Kemba is a volume shooter, and IQ is going to get into the paint much more. To your point about DeRozan and RJ, I think DeRozan would have helped out his game a lot in terms of just teaching him how to create his own shot. Like, I just think that would have helped this game tremendously, but neither here or there. I think IQ helps out the Knicks tremendously. And to your point, Alex, about Kemba and his contract, I get that we didn't pay him too much, but when you're playing above 25 minutes per game, you're expected to have an impact on the court. And right now he has a negative impact on the court, and it looks bad, and if you're our starter, you have expectations. Like, for example, Alfred Payne, he was getting the minimum with us, and we dragged his name through the dirt. It didn't matter. So, but we were paying him the minimum. So, for the contract we were giving him, even though it was a minimum, we expected high point guard play, and I think we got to expect the same thing out of Kemba.
It's fair.
Those are all fair points. I wasn't really dragging Alfred Payne like that, as many of the fan base were, but I knew.
All of us, dude. We were dragging Payne. We wouldn't even like the way he sat on the bench, but we even liked his face for a couple.
Yeah, I got towards the end because you just saw like he just didn't want to be here. Like when I saw him in Boston, I was like, "Jeez, like you can't even just hang out with the team. You got to go all the way in the back." All right, whatever.
Let me ask you a weird question. What would you think about? I threw this out there, and I still think it's kind of plausible. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but what would you think of like Obi at the 3? Like if we kind of imposed our will on teams where we go big and teams have to match us and we could run, you know what I mean? Like Obi, Randle, and Mitch, where it's not like they're like, slow people that, big centers that are just like occupying the paint. They can move all over the floor, and then we can kind of just control tempo like that. Like, how would you think teams would react to that? And do you think the Knicks would just implode on themselves like that? I don't know. I think none of them occupy the same space besides obviously Randle and Obi, but that's the whole point from the beginning.
I think that it's great to experiment. I mean, we saw the Cavaliers run a lineup with Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Lauri Markkanen, and nobody thought that was going to work, but it ended up, they're a very competitive team. Lauri is injured right now, but when he was playing, he was good. And right now they're starting Dean Wade. I think that's his name, Dean Wade. And he's starting at the 3. He's like a 6'9" power forward. So they're experimenting and they're doing just fine. But that's more of a testament to just how great and gifted Mobley is as a defender. I mean, he's just out of this world. How I think teams will react to it, offensively, they're going to leave guys open. I mean, RJ shot 40% from three last year, and players still leave him open. They don't trust his shot still. He still gets left wide open. Julius Randle, he's the only guy you really need to guard. IQ need to guard him. OB, players going to leave him open. So they're going to clog the paint and collapse on Randle more than they would have if, we have Fournier, IQ, and, full floor spacers out there. But if we're on a small ball lineup, it could work. But that's how I think teams will react to it.
Okay. And I'm down to like experiment. I think the difference is I would have Randle. I think he's more adaptable at the three. I think he's got the quicker feet because I just go back to how he defended Kyrie trying to go into the paint last season. I think it was the second matchup against the Nets. And I was like, oh, he's got quick feet like that. Maybe we got something over here. But I'd be down to see Randle at the three, Obi at the four, and whoever at the five, whether it's Mitch, Taj, Noel. I think that would be an interesting lineup. But let's get into this upcoming weekly schedule that we got here, so that we can get some Jets question for you, Joel, at the end to make us
soaking our misery with us. You're not gonna be with us with the Knicks, man. You're gonna be miserable with us with the Jets as well.
I'll be honest, I'm happy right now with the Jets and what they're doing.
Oh my goodness! All right, we're gonna talk there. We'll talk. We'll get there. Yeah, let's talk about this upcoming homestand, bro.
Let's start it off. So
let's start in reality.
You want to start in reality with the Pacers? You want to start with the Pacers tonight, or just start with the? You want to start because it's going to come out on Wednesday. That's
all right. Well, this better be a W anyway. We beat the Pacers. Let's go.
We're gonna hopefully this is it's right now 43-39. Knicks taking the lead right now. 2 minutes before the half. Hopefully the Knicks come out with a W and start off this week strong. Well, let's start off with the game that we're actually going to start on Wednesday. Joel, we face the Orlando Magic this Wednesday. What do you got? You think the Knicks are going to get the W? What do you think is happening?
I mean, we better. It's Orlando. I mean, Orlando has been competitive. No shame. Shout out to the Six-Man Show. They're awesome. They cover the Orlando Magic. Cole Anthony, Suggs, Wendell, Mo Bamba, and Franz. They have like one of the best plus minuses when they're on the court. But we went into Orlando and we blew them out. Then they come into Madison Square Garden and they beat us. And that's another gripe I have with the Knicks is that I feel like at home, as loud as the Garden is rocking, as much energy is in the building, they're just not playing great at home right now. And we got to win those home games. It's the Garden. Like we should win those home games.
We make Orlando, it tense, bro. You're there. We make it tense, bro. It's our fault. Like at the end of the day, like I'm part of it. I know we make it is so tense in there. Like if Randle misses a shot, oh boo, like this and that, like. You have like guys in OKC that like go like 1 for 9 and they'll like get like standing ovations at the end of the game. You know what I mean? So that's my only criticism of us in the Garden. But I agree with you. Like even last year, like we were killing it in the Garden, but there was no pressure on us. They're joking around post game. They're having a good time. I don't know. I just don't feel that with this team. Is it all because of Theo Pinson, Alex?
Man. I don't know why Wayne Selden's on this team. Bring back.
He would have maxed out Theo Pinson. If Alex was our GM, Theo would have got the max.
Let's keep it real. Orlando, that should be an easy win.
It should be.
Okay.
It should be.
Fine. Rockets.
That should be another easy win.
So 3 in a row.
Yeah, but knowing the Knicks, Usman Garuba's going to go off for like 25.
Oh, exactly. Man.
Sheesh.
No, we're going to
Garuba shooting threes.
Look.
I just don't like that it's at 5 o'clock.
Alperen Şengün breakout game, bro.
Wow.
Alperen Şengün breakout game.
Okay.
Don't do this.
That's not going to happen.
Don't do this.
Anyway,
the
Rockets make you play. Listen, the Rockets make you play like you're playing in the playground, like you're playing pickup, and like you play sloppy, and they make you want to take. They're gonna make Kemba want to take ridiculous threes. Like I'm telling you guys right now, that's gonna happen that game. I also don't like that it's at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Just weird. I don't know. Like Alex, you know how I feel about that with the Knicks, especially like when they're off their clock even a half hour, like when it's a 7 start or like a 6:30 instead of a 7:30. I'm like, it's over. Like we're not gonna wake up until like halfway through the second, and by the time you know we're gonna be down 15.
That's why we need to go back to those matinee games at like 1 o'clock. Man, we were good last year in those matinee games.
All right, so you got we were. So you got 2 W's at home. You got 3 W's in a row at home. So then we go for the 1-game road trip at your, I'm guessing, Eastern Conference favorite, Chicago Bulls. What do you got going on over there?
That's my Eastern Conference favorite.
Yeah, you're talking about loving their free agency.
Oh no, I
DeRozan.
got the Nets. Let's keep that.
Okay,
That's a buck. I got the Nets. Chicago's a sleeper though, for like the ECF though, not the finals. But we got to beat Chicago. But Chicago's been playing great, and that's gonna be a tough game. Last game we beat them. They came back on us though. We got to close out games better, but that's a winnable game. But that's a toss-up for me because Chicago is just playing excellent basketball right now.
For sure.
All right, so let's wrap that back and ask Alex how it's gonna go. Just leading up to that Chicago game. So we got the 3-game homestand, Alex. We got the Pacers, and then we got the beloved Magic with Cole Anthony / Michael Jordan.
I love this post-game interview. I forget which game it was, but I love this post-game.
Yeah, he's killing. They do have chemistry, even though they barely have wins. That's why it's so fun. Yeah. They remind me of the Knicks from last year, but we actually had the wins. And then the Rockets, man, 3 games in a row. This homestand. How do you see it going?
I think I'm in agreement with Joel. This should be a 3-game winning streak, man. I think if the Knicks can pull out the win against Indy tonight, I think the rest of this week is butter. And then Chicago's where we really get to that true. I don't see us beating Chicago. I think Chicago's really on a hot streak. I know they just got their asses handed to them by the Warriors this past week, but that team can shoot. It all really depends too if Vooch is back. You know, I know we went to safety protocols for COVID, but if he's back, that's gonna be tough, man. If he's out, I think the Knicks have a better shot at beating the Bulls again. Vooch really adds that dynamic nature to that team. Having 5 guys on the floor that can shoot threes, and you got to defend all of them. That's tough.
This is a Sunday at 8:00. Is this a prime time? Is this like on ESPN or TNT, or is this a normal game?
If it's Sunday, it's definitely on NBA TV. If it's prime time, if it's
8 o'clock. It's an interesting start. I don't know. The Knicks scare me, man. The Knicks. Here's the thing. Like, I'm with you guys. The Knicks should win these 3 games. Since when do the Knicks win games that they're supposed to win?
You're right.
and then like we're supposed to lose versus the Bulls. That's the game we win. So I don't know. The Rockets always play us pretty well at home. If we could sneak out, we're all like kind of like asking for this Pacers win as a gimme. We're also kind of praying. I feel like we all kind of feel an L sneaking in here. But let's say we beat the Pacers. I think we beat the Magic as well, especially as our revenge game. I think there's pride here. Like Cole Anthony's gonna get his ass beat. I'm pretty sure in the card. Like he's gonna be circled by Tibbs. He's gonna like circle his face on the board inside. He'd be like, this guy is not doing what he did to us last game. And then I think we're off from Wednesday to Saturday, and then there's a random 5 o'clock versus the Rockets. That's an L, man. That's such a Knicks L. That's a game we're favored by like 7 points, and we lose by like 15.
Is Jalen Green dropping 30?
That's it's so typical. Like Şengün, yeah, I see that, no problem. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's how I feel about that. So give me like 2-1 on this homestand, but then give me a W versus the Bulls, yo. Even if Vooch is back, that's even better. Off COVID, he's a little bit rusty. Like throw them off a little bit. Like, give me 2-2. I like this.
2-2. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, I think the thing with me, just like. I like that point about Vooch. Might actually have to. You should probably wait on that one.
A business trip to Chicago. You know what I mean? Just like it's a 1-game trip. The problem is we play on Saturday, so we're going to be heavy underdogs. You know, going into Chicago on a back-to-back, especially if we lose versus the Rockets. Like this is such a typical game. Like in my opinion, that the Knicks could win
for sure. And we got one more game because as we
Tibbs in Chicago, I forgot. And D-Rose in Chicago. Yo, this is a W.
But I think the Bulls want that revenge though, because we beat them on their home court. I think they want to show us on their home court. But we got one more game we got to cover before we finish up the week, because this comes out on Wednesdays. We got the Lakers, baby. Lakers coming to town that week of Thanksgiving. How are we feeling?
Who's playing?
I got the Lakers.
No matter who's
Russ.
playing?
Well, Russ is going to play. I think Russ is going to play. AD's probably going to play.
Wait. Russ is going to play, so does that mean Lakers are going to win or lose?
They're going to win.
Positive?
THT is back too now. THT,
Right.
he's okay. Look, I know that people, they love to make memes about THT. He's not the star that Lakers fans think he is, but he's not the bum that fans think he is. He's somewhere in the middle. He's a solid player. So THT is back. Malik Monk has been playing well. Wayne Ellington is back in the lineup, so it gives them floor spacing. Look, the Lakers.
What's this guy talking about? We have
Anthony Davis
and LeBron James. If they're playing, I'll take the Lakers. If they're not playing, I'm taking the Knicks. Talking about Russell Westbrook and Horton Tucker. Come on, bro.
Russell Westbrook.
This is all about LeBron and AD. If
Russell
they're playing,
Westbrook,
I take the Russell Westbrook. I would love for him to play.
He would be the best player on the Knicks right now.
He's gonna go 4 for 23. I don't know what you're talking about. What Russell Westbrook are you watching?
He'll do that and get 10 rebounds and 15 assists.
100%. He's gonna have 37 rebounds in Madison Square Garden. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Look at his numbers. I like Westbrook. He's had a good streak so far. He usually starts picking up towards the end of the season, though. That's my thing. Westbrook usually comes around after the All-Star break, so it's not. I think the Knicks can get. It depends. Once again, who's playing. If AD is not playing, I'm counting that one as a win. Especially if LeBron's not playing too. Counting that as a win. It's more so if LeBron.
By the way, LeBron is
playing,
everyone knows LeBron's coming back for Madison Square Garden, and he's gonna come back strictly for this game. He's conditioning for this game.
He's gonna come back for MSG with Melo and everybody. If they're all
go to
there on the court,
Brooklyn, and he's gonna play Kevin Durant.
I forgot about Melo. Yeah, Melo's gonna have a big time game.
That's what I'm saying. They're gonna
be ready going crazy.
Yeah, they're gonna be ready to go. He's not defending anyone, but he's been shooting.
Yeah,
he's been knocking them down for sure. He's been knocking them down for sure. But all right. So
I need the positive spin on the New York Jets, man. Like I can't hold it any longer. This guy's happy with the New York Jets.
Yeah, I need to hear this too, man.
And
what's going on here?
You feel the same pain I did. You feel the same cold on your face as I did. You feel the same misery watching every single Bills player, especially that starts with the number 8, wide open. You see Mike White literally throwing to linebackers. Like what? Tell me what made you happy right now. Tell me why you're happy.
So 2 weeks ago, Mike White plays against the Bengals. Has a fantastic game statistically because 334 of his yards were on throws 10 yards or less. Average depth of target of 4 yards. Dink and dunk, cookout. I mean, literally, he was just throwing short passes the entire game. Jets fans, the media, beat reporters anoint him as the next Hall of Famer. Oh, this guy is Tom Brady. 20
He's
years
in the Hall
later.
of Fame.
Okay, whatever.
He got inducted. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
20 years later, they're like, oh, Drew Bledsoe 20 years ago got hit and Brady came in. And now, fast forward, Zach Wilson gets hit and Mike White comes in. All these narratives. Connor Hughes was pushing it the most, though. Then against the Colts, he starts the game off good. And even before that game, I said, oh, my God, I hope Mike White doesn't play good. I can't take this narrative. I was annoyed by the narrative because Zach Wilson, he's my guy, 100%. He was my number 1 ranked quarterback in the draft when I was watching him in college. That's my guy. So then I said this. Versus the Bills, Mike White's going to get embarrassed, and we're going to forget we even talked about him. Against the Bills, I was at the game. I tried to root for Mike White. I was mostly trolling. I was screaming out his name, whatever. Throws 4 interceptions. At least the game that Zach threw 4 interceptions versus the Patriots, one of them wasn't on him. When Corey Davis, the ball went through his hands. It was intercepted by J.C. Jackson. Yeah, 2 of them. You're right. Because one of them, he threw to Corey and J.C. I mean, he just beat him to the ball. That's really what it was. Mike White, all 4 were bad picks. All 4 of them.
Horrible.
So,
horrible. Absolutely horrific.
This fake quarterback controversy that was brewing is finally dead. The narrative has died. Connor Hughes tweeted it was fun while it lasted. So he's off that bandwagon. But I was mostly annoyed because I felt like the coaching staff made the game very simplistic for Mike White. People will say that those plays were there when Zach was playing. They really weren't. Like, Zach Wilson really had to throw bombs down the field. And I'm just happy the Mike White narrative is dead. It's gone. I only want the Jets to win if Zach Wilson is my quarterback. At least this year. I only want them to win if Zach Wilson is my quarterback. He's probably going to come back against Miami. They're a very good man coverage team. That's going to be tough. Our receivers have to start playing better. I mean, Corey Davis, he was never a wide receiver number 1. He's a wide receiver number 2, and he got no separation on Sunday. I'll give this to Mike White. Nothing was open. They played man the entire game and nothing was open. So I'll give that to Mike White because Zach Wilson would have had like 3 picks in that game too.
Exactly.
But nothing was open against Miami. That's a tough team. They blitz a lot. They showed a lot of zero blitz looks against the Ravens. We'll see how Zach handles that, if he plays or not. But like I said, I only want the Jets winning if Zach Wilson is my quarterback. That's the only reason why. I don't want Mike White winning. I don't want this narrative to keep on circulating. And honestly, we know the Jets, we weren't coming into the season thinking we were going to be competitive. You know, we got to get a franchise-altering player, and the Jets do this every year. We start out the season and we suck. Then in the middle of the year, we get meaningless wins against top teams. Like, watch us beat the Buccaneers, you know, later on.
That would be amazing. I don't care. But at that point, that's about pride, and that's not more than a game. If we could beat Thomas, I'd be very happy.
That's our Super Bowl, baby. If that happens, that's our Super Bowl.
Like, we win these meaningless games, and then we go back and draft position. I'm all in on getting Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. That's who I want. We need a corner. We need that, and getting another edge rusher. And I wouldn't mind a wide receiver. If I was drafting, I'm getting Derek Stingley Jr. and I'm getting Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. You know, we need more receivers. And Crowder's on his way out. Elijah Moore is going to be that slot. We need another outside threat to pair up with Corey, because Corey is a 2. He's not a 1.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, man, I agree. And I appreciate that you're done with the Mike White insanity era, you know, as am I. But the only thing I'll differ with you is I'm happy that we beat the Bengals. Like, I'm happy we got that one win without Zach Wilson, right? Without a quarterback that would say, look, here, we can do it. And like you said, it wasn't because Mike White was Aaron Rodgers for the day. It was because we schemed it up. So that's a positive. That means we can do it. You know what I mean? The actual Jets can do it. Right? Something that Alex has been begging for all year long. And it just happened to show up against the best team in the league at the moment. The Bengals were the best team in the league, and we beat them. And with our backup quarterback. So pretty nice. He got smacked in Buffalo, as we all knew was going to happen. It really was not for anybody involved. My issue is I agree with everything you said. Like, with the we're going to win meaningless games. It's going to drop us back. We do have 2 first-round picks. That's kind of fun. But I don't think we're tanking as of yet. My whole issue, though, is not even with the whole narrative, like with Mike White, with Zach Wilson, with all this stuff. It's with the defense, bro. We don't have a linebacker that can cover a single soul. We don't have a safety. So, like that's why, like, yes, I can talk myself into, like, as Alex makes fun of me, like, I'd be the positive guy. I can be, you know, happy about Zach Wilson coming in. I can be happy about draft picks. But when I watch the defense, all I want to do is throw up. That's literally all I want to do. I just want to throw up. So you don't think we're going to be able to handle this Dolphins 0 blitz and horrible offensive line? I tend to disagree. I think this is a game the Jets could win. This is a meaningless game the Jets could win. This is an easy game we could win. The problem is, man, what the hell are we going to do on the defense? Like, if one of you can give me the answer to what the Jets are going to do on defense, like, God bless you. The Dolphins don't have a quarterback, and we still are not going to be able to cover him.
This is right for the Jets and the Dolphins. This is a get right game for both teams, for either the Dolphins offense to finally click or the Jets defense to finally click. That's what we got coming up. And I don't know. Honestly, both these teams are just they're wild cards. They're legitimately wild cards in the sense of, like, I have no idea what can happen. It can go either way. You know, hopefully the Jets come out and you see Zach Wilson play well and you move the ball up and down the field against this team, because the Dolphins offense is just struggling, meaning the defense has got to be out there longer and they're getting tired. Hopefully that's what happens. Conversely, hopefully the Jets can actually freaking defend something for once and take advantage of a team that has no quarterback. But we won't know. I honestly you can't predict these two teams for the life of me. Just stay away. If this is right. John, I would not even put a bet on this game. I'm looking at your face because I know
I'll give you 3 predictions right here.
Perfect.
Actually, I'll give you 3 takes right
here.
Joel
speaks my language. Joel speaks my language. Let's go.
These are 3 takes. Number 1, the Dolphins are winning. That's number one.
Wow.
Tua is going to have a great game against the Jets defense, possibly, and their defense is
That's a
going
hot
to
take.
show up. Their defense is going to show up. Now, number two, talking about the defense, you're right. It's been absolutely abysmal. Rex Ryan called out Robert Saleh today, and then Robert Saleh
Which is
responded.
bullshit.
Yeah, Rex Ryan, the team, he didn't build the team. He already had Darrell. He already had these great players. So Robert Saleh in San Fran, when the team started to get built on defense, that's when they had success. You can't have success with trash players. And right now, we got a lot of trash players on defense. That's just what it is. We paid John Franklin Myers, and he's disappeared since getting paid. I'm glad that he got paid, but you got to perform. That's you got to do that. Losing Carl Lawson for the season hurt us a lot. It set us back a lot. We were supposed to have a top 15 defensive line in football, and losing Carl Lawson, it really set us back. CJ Mosley, he's not who he once was. And then outside of him, Gerard Davis got hurt. So we haven't seen him. I like Ashton Davis, but we know he's not a game changer. Marcus May.
He's not a safety, bro.
Yeah,
he's a special teamer. I'm sorry.
Marcus May, he's injured. I will say this. I like our young corners. I like Michael Carter II. I like Bryce Hall. Guidry, he's fast, but he gets beat a lot. But we're really just that. We need just one corner, one like solid star corner. And I think that could be Derek Stingley Jr. Now, for my third take, there's things to be optimistic about. I mean, we have these 2 first-round picks that Joe Douglas this past draft, I mean, he hit on Elijah Moore. He hit on AVT so far. I call him ADT because he's maximum protection. And
I love that.
Then Mike Carter is good. Michael Carter II was good. Jamie and Sherwood, these other guys are washes and stuff like that.
But I think, Achilles.
Yeah, I think that, Joe Douglas has shown that he can draft somewhat well. And as long as he hits on the most important pick, which we already picked with the second overall pick in Zach Wilson, then we got a bright future. I think Zach's going to be the guy. I know that a lot of the fan base is not really sold on him. He's thrown 4 touchdowns and 9 picks, but it's coming. It's coming.
I agree. Coming. Dude, honestly, nothing makes me more confident than the fact that Jets fans are off on him. That makes me the most guy. The fact that media is off on him and everybody's so off on Zach Wilson and Joe Douglas and the Jets, and we pay attention to literally every single move they make. Like, we are hypercritical. I'm telling you, and there's nothing to be hypercritical about. They've been doing everything fine. And not only do I think that the Jets are covering 3.5. I don't care what any of you say. The Jets are covering 3.5 this weekend. I'll call the Jets to win later. The cover 3.5.
Yes. If Zach plays, yes. I hope he plays.
I mean, if Flacco plays, does it make a difference? Tua sucks, bro. I don't care. The thing is, Gesicki's going to have 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's my only issue.
If Flacco plays, that's going to be competitive. Because Flacco's not good, but he's just a veteran quarterback that can run the offense. So the offense is going to get moving. We saw it last year. I mean, when Sam Darnold went out, Joe Flacco was tremendously better than him. It wasn't even close. When Joe Flacco was out there, he was better than Sam.
So this just in, Joel thinks Flacco is elite, Alex.
Elite Flacco.
Alex was going to blow a gasket when we traded for Joe Flacco.
I have not. Okay, whatever. I don't want to end on Joe Flacco. All I'll say is this: Mike White thing was entertaining. We at least had something entertaining as a storyline throughout the season. Now we can go back to our scheduled programming as just being hopeful Jets fans.
We have an easy schedule, bro. We have an easy schedule.
It's funny because I was on YouTube and I was watching this top NFL quarterback controversies, something that NFL Network made a while ago. And I'm just like, man, if they remade this today, Zach Wilson and Mike White would have been there.
Yeah. So sad, huh?
Facts. Oh, man. But Joel, thank you for coming on the pod, man. Let our listeners know where they can find you work.
Yeah, you could follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Joel V. Moran. It's all the same @name. I made it really simple for people. And on YouTube, Pick Aside Podcast. On TikTok, Instagram @Pick Aside Podcast. On Twitter, it's @Pick Aside Pod because they took the cast, so we couldn't do that. But yeah, that's where you guys can find me at. Awesome. It was a blast being on here. You guys are amazing. And we got to do this again sometime, man. This was really dope.
Absolutely, man. And if you're at the games, bro, we gotta link up at the games.
I'm going to the Knicks and Nets game at Barclays Center, though.
Oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
my next planned Knicks game is Knicks Bulls. But if anything comes in between, I'll let you know. Barclays.
I was gonna
I
go
went
to
to
that
Barclays. I went to the home opener for the first time ever. So I know like the Barclays Center. I went to Barclays Nets Hornets. Dude, it's straight up
It's
YMCA
dead.
in there.
It's
bro.
dead,
It's
bro.
the
It's
worst.
dead.
They have that little
Yeah.
weird section with like people
Yeah.
just yelling, dude. They're weird.
I went to Game 7 Nets versus Bucks this past
Yeah.
playoffs. It was loud. Not gonna lie, but it wasn't as loud as like a first round Knicks game at
Oh,
MSG.
nothing.
No
Nothing.
way. It doesn't
It
even
probably wasn't as
compare
loud
to
as
it.
our home opener this year.
Man, I was gonna go to the Knicks and Bulls game December 2nd, but
Yeah.
I looked at the prices, they shot up. Like I looked at them like a couple weeks ago, they were like $55 for pretty good seats. Now they're like 200 for the seats that I originally wanted.
Listen, and if you're still listening on this pod, you're allowed to get this advice. And Joel, let me tell you how to get Knicks tickets, man. As soon as they drop, you go to Ticketmaster and just buy them face value. Just buy them. Forget StubHub. Forget all that nonsense. Like that's for last minute stuff. People just drop it. But yo, if you go to ticket, like I just bought face value, like row 3 tickets. They're like $300. Like no problem. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like there's nothing crazy about it. It's not like, oh my God, I'm sitting so. No, I just bought it from the Knicks. They don't sell it for $6,000 like the guy on StubHub does. So
Yeah.
next time, yo, if you're trying to go to a game, like for example, if you're still listening, you're about to really know, get the real scoop because the March games are still on sale. So you can get a bunch of the March games, which is again Hornets, Bulls, about the same teams, and they're going to be competitive games. Portland, and you can get some good seats for some good face value. So just some tidbits here if you made it all the way to the end.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking that advice.
Getting some free advice from John over here on how to attend games. And on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in for another Knicks episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. You know what to do. If you listen to this pod on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and to leave a comment. That helps us out also greatly. On top of that, if you don't have Apple Podcasts, it's okay. We're on Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it, we are there. On top of that, we're also on YouTube. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button, hit that notification bell. That way you can see our beautiful faces, okay? Also, while you're over there, make sure to check out Winning Picks Weekly. You got John and Greg doing an awesome NFL show, and they're about to start an NBA show as well. On top of that, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're there. All right, everyone, we'll catch you later this week for another Jets episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast.
All right, let's go Knicks.